Okay, it's good seeing everybody. Good getting back off a spring break in a fairly long winter. Our players have worked really hard through the winter. Our strength and conditioning coaches once again have done a wonderful job of preparing our players. Had a little break with spring break. Had to push back spring ball, just a couple practices. Got started today, and I'm just excited. Really excited about this year. I feel like we have a really good nucleus of players that have been here with good experience and understand our culture and what we expect. I think we have a lot of good additions. Obviously, we have some new faces in the coaching area that you guys all know about and talked about already, with Bush coming back or coming as the offensive coordinator, Eric Wolford coming back as offensive line. The first day, just today, I was just very impressed. I mean, there are obviously some mistakes. There's some things, some areas where we have a lot of practices to clean up. But overall procedure, just alignments, motions, plays, I really like what we're doing, or I wouldn't have hired him. So I really feel good about Bush and the creativity that he has and the experience that he has, the knowledge. So, overall first day went very well. Defensively, again, a good mix of players that have played a lot of football for us. We need that experience, and we have some good newcomers. So, we're off to a start, and I think everybody's excited because winter gets a little long. They're in there lifting and running and grinding for some time. They look good. I felt really good about the condition that they were in for day one. I feel really good about the tempo, which I've mentioned to you all before, just the way we're getting plays off, quicker, getting through practice, ripping through a lot of plays in the same amount of time. So things are going well. We're off to a good start.
Obviously, you've sold the pro-style offense and recruiting a lot in the last few years, preparing guys for the next level. How much does Bush still bring that, but maybe bring a little more tied to the college game?
Well, I think that's a very good question, because there still are all those elements. Those pro elements are in there, but he has been in college, so the operation, he's gone through that with the way to expedite the play calls, the way to get plays off quicker, and still have the creativity of we want to be able to run and play action pass, and I think you see the game evolving constantly. High school, college, pros. You see a lot of stuff in the pro game that we're doing at the college level they've been doing for years, and vice versa. So I think it's important to keep that balance. I think, with me, I've said it for 12 years now. I mean, it starts with being physical and being able to run the ball, and I don't think that's much different in the NFL. They certainly, there are teams that, throw the ball exceptionally well with very dynamic players and, maybe better at one or the other. But I think for us, and you look at the top of college football, and there's usually very good balance.
Speaking of expediting play calls, you can now put microphones in helmets. Are you all going to use that technology, and how do you sort of implement that into?
Yeah, so we use that today for the first time, and it'll be interesting. I'd rather reserve my comments until I get a better feel for it. Mm-hmm. I think the things that we need to get answered is how that could benefit both players. The offense player and the defense player. I think the challenge will be, as you're playing tempo teams, they're not going to slow down. And I don't think the headsets will make them go faster. You know what I mean? Because they already go about as fast as you could go. As fast as you get guys lined up, that's as fast as they go. So I don't know how much that'll change for them. And so for us, when you only have one guy on defense with an earpiece, I don't know how he could communicate it that fast. So and offensively the same way. The one guy has it. It'll be good to communicate with the quarterback. I think you could relay some messages possibly, or alerts. It could help line up some people. I think part of the signaling and things of that nature is still going to have to stay in the game. I don't think one on offense or one on defense will take that away.
I know it's early too, it's a small sample size, but how have you seen the receivers respond to downfield shorts so far?
I was really impressed with today, just our practice. I thought they had a really from Georgia and where he came from in the offense and how complex they were. That makes it very nice for him. He was their backup last year and it's been through. And you bring in a guy from that program, he's been coached well, and he's had a lot on his plate, and he really works hard. So I think operationally with Brock, I have total confidence. I think it's really nice to have a guy like Bo and the experience that he has, and went away and played some ball and come back and very confident in his role. And then of course Cutter, the talent that he has, and he's a very bright young man, and he has the ability to sit in a really quality quarterback room. And I think they're feeding off each other, working really well. And I think goals would be to come out of spring, much improved from a year ago, and operationally being very, very smooth.
Mark, you're bringing 4 of your starting offensive linemen back. Bringing Eric Wolford back too. What do you think Wolford? Why do you think he can get more out of that group?
I mean, I'm just confident in Eric. I mean, you used the word getting more out of him or whatever. I know we need to improve in a lot of areas, not just the offensive line. I mean, I want to be better football team. And, I think with the offensive line in particular, I know Eric, and I've worked with Eric several stops, and so I know what he brings. And I mentioned that. And I mean, I think, great knowledge. He's produced a lot of great football players, developed a lot of great football players. He knows what to expect from himself. He recruits at a high level, and he's extremely demanding on the field. So we need to improve amongst many other positions. We need to be better than we were a year ago.
Specifically at right tackle, how's that?
Yeah,
rotation?
Mincy. I think bringing Mincy in, with all the plays that he's had, the size and the experience that he has, really helps us right away. Just with him alone, the experience that he has.
You have experience on both sides in the trenches.
Yeah.
Do you expect those to be some really good competition?
Yeah, good competition. Defensively, those guys get beat up a lot, and worn down. So I think it's really important to have quality depth at the defensive line position. And we have a lot of snaps, like you said, and we have some good youngsters that I'm excited about. So, we'll see. We have a lot of work to do there. But, I think, I've been talking about that for a long time, too. You have to be good, in the trenches on both sides. And so we'll continue to work, and we'll continue to develop and recruit, those positions.
Mark, you guys are obviously replacing the legend, and Ray Davis, but you guys have replaced legendary running backs a couple times recently. So what are you saying about Raymond Chip? I mean, he showed those flashes.
Yeah.
How good can he be?
Yeah, we got to see how spring goes. It's just day one. We're not allowed to have shoulder pads on today, so we'll see how that goes. But I have confidence in the group, and I think we have a lot of talent in that room.
What about Chip specifically?
Chip is a very serious guy. I mean, he's very mature. It's very important to him. He works very hard, obviously, physically. He has the skills that we're looking for. So everything I've seen to this point, I'm impressed with. But again, this is day one, and we have a lot of work to do.
Is Corwin Ford going to be available this spring?
He is not going to be available this spring.
Are there any other guys that I'm sure you have
I do. I have a laundry list of guys that are going through some part, all that. I don't really want to get into every one of them right now.
Mark, how do you think that the players and Coach Hammond have taken to each other, both from
more lenient in some of the things we're allowed to do in the winter, and so they really gravitated towards those meetings and walkthroughs and worked hard to put us in a position to really have a good day one, because you really can't afford with 15 practices to waste any time.
You've obviously been through the new play call install before during spring practice. Are there any checkpoints you look for throughout to know that these guys are on the right?
Well, just always behind, and just the operation in general, just the communication, the operation, pre-snap penalties, guys, knowing where just looking clean and looking smooth, and again, we were far from perfect today. There was a lot of things that we'll go watch the film and clean up that we have to, but overall, just very encouraging.
Through the spring as a whole, are there like tangible goals, things that you can measure that you're trying to check those boxes maybe?
It's really a developmental, spring. I mean, obviously with us, with the change with the offensive coordinator, putting together and making sure we're very clear on who we are and what our identity is and what we do well, and what carries over, what doesn't. The coaches, with Bush and the coaches, had to work hard at what terminology could carry over. I didn't want to hinder his confidence. We have very, skilled offense players and some good talent. We got to make sure we are able to get first downs and get plays. You get more plays, then you guys won't all ask me why so-and-so didn't get a touch, why so-and-so didn't get a touch, so-and-so. You know what I mean? We're a lot better when we get more touch, when we get more plays. You're going to get the ball spread out more.
Derek and Trevin were so comfortable together in the middle of that defense. How does Derek and Jamin, how does that partnership look right now? And does Jamin forego after his surgery?
Yeah. We have some bodies inside that we're going to work with, but it is a fair question because Derek, was so close to Trevin. Trevin was out there today, so we got to keep him around for a while. You know what I mean? So, but no, I think that's a fair question. They had a really good relationship, and we're really close, and really fed off of each other a lot, and through time and through playing with new guys, you have to learn to adapt. And of course, even last year, that there were different times when one was in and one was out.
After the Gator Bowl, Deion Walker, the way he kind of represented himself as being the leader of that defense and knowing that you need to win games during the spring. I was just very impressed with just how he handled everything. Do you see that translation?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I said that last year before he spoke, in the post game, because that is how he is all the time. He is, very strong leader. It's very important to him. Guys respect him because, obviously he's very talented, but he works very hard, and it's important. And he's very much a team guy, and you need that in this day and age. And we all know, college sports in general are changing, rapidly, but it still comes down to unity in that locker room and practices and guys being close, and we're working hard, and we brought Dean Hood back to be in charge of player development, a guy that's very passionate about that and finding ways to help me bond with each other, the team, becoming close. And that's always been important to me, and I think, right now it's as important as it ever was, just because your rosters are different, and changing much more so than they used to.
Is the message received easier when it's coming from a guy who's that big?
I think it helps. Yeah, definitely helps. I've always said that you've heard me talk about the trenches, but same with the offensive line. We go as they go, and I've always felt that way. Maybe because, as I tell offensive linemen as we're recruiting them, they've always been important here, and I think our fan base respects that, and the same with defensive linemen. I mean, they're first of all, they're big guys, and there's a whole bunch of them. So when they break a meeting up there, there's about 15 of them walking down the hall. Generally, people get out of their way. You know what I mean?
Mark, you guys have enrollees, a lot of early enrollees. How important is the spring for them? I know a few years ago you guys talked about Dane Key, how well he did. How important is that for those younger?
Yeah, I think it's, very important. Guys that come in, and we've had guys come in the summer and contribute and help. But obviously, it's beneficial to have them here in the spring. I mean, there's just so much that they're going through. Not only with X's and O's, but just with our culture, team fit, the way they, interact with other players. I just think it's important, and it helps.
A lot of the guys are at that edge position. You've invested a lot in that high school recruiting ranking. So how important is JJ play in helping those guys come along?
I think it's really important, and I think JJ, has a lot on his shoulders because, through my time here, you've seen guys come back when they've had an opportunity possibly to either leave. Well, now they always have the opportunity to transfer, right? And then you also have the opportunity to possibly enter your name into the draft. And then you have the decision to come back. We could go back to Josh Allen amongst others. How are you going to handle that? You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, every one of these players have ambition to play in the NFL. And, we want that for them when that time is right and when they have the best opportunity to make a living professionally, to play. So I think, I've seen it all, and I've seen guys leave too early when they weren't ready. I've seen guys, I've seen surprises, guys both ways, maybe guys not get drafted, guys get drafted, play very well. But what I'm getting at is when they make a decision to come back, much like Josh, you could point to him, he put his head down and worked harder than anybody on our team. And that's the type of mentality that we need from JJ for himself and for our team.
Speaking of that, Mark, Pro Day obviously was insane last
And hopefully continue to make a difference.
How are those young corners that kind of got thrust into it at the end of the bowl game? How are they looking as you try to find somebody replacing?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that we have some bodies to work with, and they need to improve. I think that's important. For him, for those guys to improve. Chris Collins, while I'm talking about the corners, has been promoted to co-defensive coordinator. Brad will obviously be defensive coordinator, and nothing in his role will change. It's more of just helping Chris because he's earned that, and we need him, the corners to step up and improve and help, basically with pass game coordinator, which a lot of people do, defensive pass game coordinator, and step up his role a bit, and so. Proud of him and promoting him in that role. But, as far as the cornerback play in particular, I think we have a lot of bodies to work with. Last year when we had some injuries, in particular in the bowl game, we had some guys that did some good things but need to play better in certain moments. And we'll continue to work on that.
A couple more. Quick follow-up on Collins. You rarely hire assistants from the G5 ranks. That was kind of an odd timing. Have you seen him grow?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is we felt like he had a ton of potential. I've done that before at that position. Where we've got guys and brought them along, and Steve Clinkscale is a great example of a guy that came in and just really proud of him and what he's done and what he's accomplished and just the growth that you saw him have here and then move on and continue to grow and, really hoping for the same thing and already seeing a lot of that growth, or I wouldn't have promoted him from Chris. So, he needs to take that and run and have some more responsibility. And that's what guys are looking for in their career is a responsibility, when you're in position coach.
Mark, you mentioned the hard work in the winter earlier. Do you have like a guy that maybe you all challenged in the weight room or strength and conditioning, or a couple of guys who kind of really transformed?
I've kind of, decided today as I walked into this that I was going to stay away from naming guys. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, you say, somebody had a great practice or whatever, then they listen to everything you guys are saying. You know what I mean? And they don't, realize that it's the consistent.
All right, folks.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
very
you.
much.
Yep.